Okay, hello and welcome. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the Infinity XID, and this is dealing with the version 4.21. Okay, so you need to log in with your X3 details. And then you either go to the Interactive Designer or the Ticket Designer. We're going to focus on the Interactive Designer. Here are some existing projects that I've been working on, but let's start with a new one, shall we? Okay, good. So as you can see, you presented with a web interface. We have Save As, and what we're going to do is we're going to actually just go ahead and save this straight away and say Demo 1 2020, and we're going to save that. So let's just work on the top here. Here's the name of the project. There's the Save As, because you can work on a project and save it as something different and then reload it and make changes and use it for something different. While you're working, you can save it over there. You also have the aspect ratio. We're currently working on a 16:9 ratio. You can have 9:16, 4:4, or custom ratios. You also have a preview. We'll have a look at that later. Snapshot. You can take a snapshot of your design and send it to somebody for approval, that sort of thing, or just download it to your machine. We then also have the API manager. We'll talk a lot more about that later, but really what this does is it allows you to use JSON to drive the dynamic content on your screen. Okay, let me just close it over here. Got a script editor. For those of you that want to write your own scripts, you can do it over here. And obviously, if you do write these scripts, you may quite possibly break your project if you're not careful, but quite useful to people that know how to use that. And then obviously over here we can check for updates. You just click that and it will go to the server and have a look and see if there have been any software updates. It will then update your project with the latest changes that we have. Okay, alright, so there we go, and about, this is XID Interactive Designer 4.21. Okay, good. Then to the left hand side of the screen. Okay, over here we can add a page because the XID has the capacity to have multiple pages, so you can make interactive presentations. You could also add pages and cycle through them in your signage. You can remove pages and you can duplicate pages. Then with some of the tool sets over here, you can obviously add text. That's fairly straightforward. Brings up a text box. You can size it. You would then move to the right hand side over here and you could then add your text. Okay. Obviously your sizing can be controlled by points over here, and if you just wanted to find a random thing, you would go down to scale over here. You could also then adjust the content over there. While we're over here on the appearance, we can manage the colors of the content. Okay, we can also create a background for this. Okay, and if you did have a border, you would go down to the bottom here and you could add a border to it as well, and manage that color. We want to now center this content in this box. You would then go back to your text controls and click that to center it. Also have the ability here on the attributes to change the roundness of it, and there is also padding. Sometimes this is quite useful, just trying to get that text perfectly aligned to how you want it. So the next thing on the left hand side we're going to look at here is the shapes. There's multiple shapes that you can make use of. You want the man, obviously put him over there. Once again, you have control over the colors. It also memorizes the objects that you're using, which is really quite nice when you're building quite a big project. You can make squares, move them around. And now here's a really smart thing, is on the right hand side we have layers, and we can move the square behind the shape. It's really quite useful. This Infinity X Media Library opens up the content that is loaded onto your Infinity and which you have permissions for. So you can then use all of the content from your media management system. If I wanted to use sailing boat, we'll do that. And we will then put this to any side. If you hold the Shift key, it will then maintain the correct aspect ratio. I will move this once again to the background. I can also change the color of the page by going back to Design, going to Pages, selecting Page Background, and adding or selecting the color that I want. Okay. So that's how you add pictures, and the same would apply to adding video. If I wanted to add a video to my screen, just bear in mind that not all media players support this function. Currently the Linux player and some of the Samsung SoCs support this. You go to the drop down and you go default video. It'll then show you the videos that you have available. I'm going to take this C-Class Coupe TV ad, click it, once again it loads it into your page. You're then able to place your video into your presentation. I just brought the controls up so that I could kill the sound. Okay, so really useful. Another useful tool, obviously, if you ingested PNGs into your system, they will maintain their transparency and you would be able to utilize them in this presentation. Okay, so then this over here is hotspots. So this is utilized in creating interactive environments. You simply click on it and you're able to place this hotspot wherever you like on the screen. We'll talk more about that in another tutorial, so I'm going to remove it for now. And cards. This is also something quite useful for when you're generating buttons, but we'll have an individual tutorial for this. This over here is for the use of web pages. We will have a separate tutorial for that, and you could also add QR codes. Very simple to use. Click on the button, it brings up the QR code. You then go and insert the URL you'd like that QR code to address. We could just put that down the bottom over here. Okay, and then over here we have the code block, and those of you that know a little bit of HTML will find this tool very useful. You can embed all kinds of HTML objects in that. Very simply, you open it up, decide where you want to put the code block, click on it. You can then go and insert your code over here. What I'll do is I'll just use one of the snippets for now, which is, let's use the time. You can then use the time. You can change the size of that, obviously. You can change the font. So I'm just going to use a Gotham light, and once again I could then change the size of it if I so desired. Okay, so we will just move all of these up there, and we'll just put the clock, it's always a bit big. The thing you will notice is that the binding boxes do not allow you to move outside of the actual workspace. So that is normal, and that's the way it's designed. Transparency is also available for objects, so if we wanted to just lighten that up a little bit, we could just do that as well. Okay, so that's the first little introduction to XID and the tools. Before we go, this interactive mode, I'll do a whole tutorial on that, and the modals, we'll talk in another tutorial about that. But that obviously is using interactive and allowing you to make hotspots and bring up information in a separate modal for your interactive. Right, and then you can duplicate elements over here. So if I wanted to duplicate this man, for example, simply make sure it's selected and duplicate, and there you go, you got two. Okay, just going to get rid of that, and that's the first tutorial, and please go to the next one, and we'll start dealing more in depth with all of the tools and how you can use them. We'll see you at the next tutorial. Thanks for watching.